But we've had a nice little rally in things like NVIDIA, haven't we?
Yes. I mean, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you mentioned NVIDIA because today they're ringing the opening bell over at the other place.
I didn't want to let it go 2 minutes without mentioning it.
And of course,
you unloaded your NVIDIA bag as well, filled with your endless amounts of just use. I mean, look at this.
Stock was down 99 cents at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Then it rallied to being plus as people saw that Goldman recommended the stock. Thank you. And now it's back down $1.27. But this is to Jim, and it's signed by Jensen because this is a very big day. 25 years since the G-Force. This is the legacy. This all got started. Everything got
25 years ago. It's when it got started.
No, not the company, but the key.
The key.
Yeah.
Technology. What would you call it?
Technology.
Right.
You mentioned Goldman. NVIDIA is on their list of top picks going into earnings, along with Citi, Gap, what else? Dell, Broadcom, ADT.
Yeah, no, that was a very strange list. And, we're seeing these things, these tactical lists. And, sorry, what is that about? So I guess that was screaming about yesterday's game. And I think that when you look at the list, I come back and I say, well, this is kind of an oddball list. AZEK, which is decking, a good company. Jesse Singh runs that. And Monday.com, I don't know. Dell, obviously, you're no stranger to Michael Dell. Broadcom, all-time high yesterday. So it's eclectic list.
It is.
And NVIDIA is really interesting over the last handful of days. So the stock's up 8% on the week. And in some respects, it's helped hold this market up in the face of a lot of noise that's been around. And, from your people that you talk to, there's a tremendous amount of bullish options activity around NVIDIA going out into the spring of 2025. Give me some more specifics on that, and then we can kick this around the table. But I find this interesting, and I think all of you will too.
So I'm a cash equities guy. I'm not in the options market, but a lot of people I talk to are. Was talking to my friend Joe Fahmy, who's on the network a lot, and Joe is looking at something that you really don't see very often. Here you have the second largest market cap company in the world, basically trading at an all-time record high, and you see monster call buying at the March strikes from like 150 all the way up to 189. We're talking about thousands and thousands of contracts. This is not retail money. This is obviously somebody very sophisticated or somebody very insane, but they are betting big on continued record highs out into earnings season for this name. And it's worth bringing up because it's so far out, both out of the money and that March strike is so far away from now. I think it becomes emblematic of what this stock has been able to do, despite lackluster performance from the other gigantic tech mega caps. It really is its own world right now, and it's just so tough to bet against this thing. Every time you think it's over, it's like it's just getting warmed up.
Kev, when we talk about, Josh talks about March of 25, you're like, well, what's interesting about March of 25? And then we are also reminded that of all of the mega cap tech stocks, NVIDIA is the latest reporter of the group, right? I mean, you go through the banks and then you get some, big S&P names, and then you start to get the mega caps, but then you got to wait like almost a month after all of the mega caps start reporting until NVIDIA reports. So maybe that has something to do with it too, but you've noticed this volume pickup as well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to the viewers is to appreciate what this trade is and not looking at it from the thousands of shares from the institutional side, but just breaking it down on one share. So let's pretend that NVIDIA is around $130 a share, give or take. This 150 option needs to go up $20 for it to break even, and they're paying $13, $14. So that means you need to see NVIDIA at 163 to 164 just to break even on this trade. Now, that doesn't mean that the stock can't move, and we know all about the Greeks and the deltas, and you can trade it tomorrow. But just to put it into perspective, what we're talking about, that is a very bullish thesis on NVIDIA in a relatively short
Kevin, this is not, you would not place this trade to hedge an existing position. There would be only one reason why you would be buying like 5,000 of the 150s, for example. It's because you're making a bet that it's going higher.
Well, by the way, just for what I have in front of me here, the earnings date is February 26.
So
of
late
2025,
February.
so late February. So it makes perfect sense. From our own Dan Nathan of Risk Reversal, obviously, who all of you know, I'm sure, from Fast Money, says that call volume is 2 times that of puts right now in NVIDIA. So that just gives you a degree to which the bullish activity continues. Liz, by the way, we'll watch NVIDIA because 135.58 is the all-time closing high for shares of NVIDIA, which aren't that far away, as the S&P 500 itself gets closer to 5,800. Rarefied air really approaching for both of those names. And this also just goes back to NVIDIA in the sense that they get the benefit of the doubt.
Always.
Few others, if anybody else does.
Well, it's the purest play. Obviously, you don't have to look at AMD and say what's the PC market up to. By the way, also 10 times the market cap. NVIDIA is 10 times the market cap at this point, more than that of AMD. So it is just assumed to be the predominant way to capture the flow of dollars. And the stock is trading as if we're going to get confidence about the next 3 or 4 quarters once we hear from them and hear all the other cloud players come in. We'll see if that does come around. I would say there's a lot more differentiation within the Mag 7 than there had been in the first half of this year.
Semis have picked up the pace again and are outperforming the S&P for the first time in 3 weeks.
Oh, NVIDIA almost made a new high.
Yeah, fresh highs.
Yesterday or today. Options traders are betting that it could then have that breakout as early as next week. Mike Coe looking at that. And what do you see, Mike?
Well, I mean, NVIDIA is always the busiest single stock option and by a very chunky margin. And actually, on its own, it represented about 9.5% of the total U.S. options volume, and that includes ETF and indices. The call volume was up about 20%. That's an increase of about 500,000 contracts over the 20-day average. The busiest contracts that expire next week, so ignoring the ones that expire tomorrow, were the 135 and 140 strike calls. The 135 calls traded about 80,000 contracts. There were a lot of block prints in there. The one we're highlighting was a purchase of just under 700 contracts for about $3 a contract. So risking a relatively small percentage of the current stock price to bet, since it is bumping up against those all-time highs, that it could actually break through sometime between now and a week from tomorrow.
And maybe widen that gap with AMD. Dan, what are you watching?
Well, listen, with the stock up 170% of the year, like you just said, it's very close to those all-time highs. Some of the call buying on a short-dated basis, but also looking out to November, suggests that there's a lot of folks levering up that they think this is going to make a year-end run. And, you know, if you look at the chart of this thing over the last year, it's had these breakouts, consolidations, breakouts, and I think that's what.
But it's held that uptrend.
Yeah.
At times it looked like it was going to. Excuse me?
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the boss of the market
says it all.
right now.
Well, that says
it all.
Isn't it?
There's always a bull market somewhere, and for the last 2 years, well, it's been right in front of you. So in honor of this glorious birth of this fabulous stampeder, let's take a look at which stocks led us to this bonanza of a birthday. First, do you even have to guess, given this lid and mug, the best performer? Why, it's NVIDIA, the incredible technology enterprise. It's arguably the most important company in the world right now. This may be, by the way, the most valuable hat in the world because this is signed by Jensen right there. GE Force, 25 years, rings the NASDAQ opening bell tomorrow. 2 years ago, NVIDIA was at split-adjusted price of 11 smackers. And people were just beginning to realize that maybe it wasn't just a gaming company with some real fast graphics chips. This was just a month and a half before the launch of ChatGPT. The most exciting thing I can recall since you've got mail. I've already, by that point, I named my dog NVIDIA. That happened years before this bull market, but not everyone watches Bad Buddy or belongs to CNBC Investing Club, so you might have missed it. Eventually, NVIDIA and its Renaissance man CEO Jensen pioneered both accelerated computing and generative AI. We speak too much about the latter, not enough about the former. Accelerated computing is what makes things really work here. In other words, NVIDIA's created machines that think faster than you do, and soon will do almost anything better than you can do. Now, I don't want you freaking out. We're in charge here. We make the decisions, but AI saves a lot of time. I call it a lot of man hours, which is why it's such a revolutionary technology for the enterprise. And it's about to get even better because we'll see an amazing jump in the on-the-fly thinking from generative AI when NVIDIA's new line of Blackwell chips gets fully deployed next year. They are so powerful, so fast. These guys basically invented a chip that is so quick that it created the entire AI business out of thin air. It wasn't possible before, but now it can do incredible things, and very soon it'll be both faster and better. By the way, I think it's going to do some stuff with video that's going to blow you away. I've never seen a company have such demand for its products. including demand from Tesla, which needs NVIDIA for self-driving cars, which we'll talk about. I'm sure you'll hear about tonight with the robot presentation for Tesla. The whole thing's remarkable, and the stock's 1,072% gain over the past 2 years was right there for the taking, as CNBC Investing Club members well know. I do think it's got more upside, which is why I always say own it, don't trade it. It does put a smile on my face. I am happy when people make a lot of money. It's just me. I will always be that way.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. The S&P finished the day down about 0.2%. NVIDIA finished the day up about 1.6%. And Tesla finished the day down nearly 1%. As I've said in multiple videos recently, I've been planning on exiting this swing trade position entirely before the robotaxi event just in case, because I think this event could potentially be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. In yesterday's video, I told you that I intended to sell the remainder of my swing trade position today, and that is exactly what I have done. And so I am now completely out of this Tesla swing trade. I just want to be completely honest and transparent with all of you about that. Now about NVIDIA. NVIDIA has had a fantastic week so far with multiple news events taking place. This past Sunday, NVIDIA updated their investor presentation. Then we got NVIDIA's AI Summit in Washington, D.C. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang was in New York this week speaking with investors. Foxconn announced a new NVIDIA superchip facility. We got confirmation that OpenAI has started to receive shipments of Blackwell. And Microsoft announced that Microsoft Azure is officially the first cloud in the world running on NVIDIA's Blackwell platform. The fact that some of NVIDIA's customers are already starting to use Blackwell is a very big deal. At NVIDIA's last earnings conference call, we were told that Blackwell would start shipping in Q4. And here we are right now, still in NVIDIA's fiscal third quarter, and we have confirmation from multiple NVIDIA customers that they are already receiving shipments and starting to use Blackwell. This means that we should see some Blackwell revenue show up in NVIDIA's next earnings report. I'm not talking about guidance for Blackwell revenue. I mean actual Blackwell revenue on the books. This is a very big deal. In the short term, I don't know what will happen because anything is possible. And personally, I am cautious about adding to NVIDIA and cautious about adding to the rest of the market until November 1st. This is because of the pattern the market followed back in 2016 and 2020. Back then, the market began trading lower in mid to late October, reaching a relative low on the Friday before the election. This year, that would be November 1st. And keep in mind that back in 2020, the market actually traded higher during the first half of October before eventually trading lower in the second half of the month. And so even though the market is moving higher right now, I am still cautious until we get to November 1st. I don't know what will happen between now and then, and I personally would rather be patient just in case. Now, once we get to the actual week of the election, I think the market is likely to start trading higher as it did back in 2016 and 2020. And this is assuming that nothing unexpected is happening in the world at that time. And I think NVIDIA is especially likely to trade higher in November in anticipation of NVIDIA's next earnings report. This is because of Micron's great earnings that they reported and because of Blackwell, both Blackwell revenue and fourth quarter guidance for Blackwell revenue. As of NVIDIA's latest earnings conference call, we were expecting about $3 to $4 billion in Blackwell revenue in Q4. So if NVIDIA guides Q4 Blackwell revenue noticeably higher than $3 to $4 billion, then I think the stock likely trades higher on that news. So those are my short-term thoughts about NVIDIA. I also want to remind you all of NVIDIA's next AI Summit, which is scheduled for October 23rd through the 25th in Mumbai. And this time, CEO Jensen Huang is scheduled to speak at the AI Summit on October 24th. So be sure to mark your calendars for that. Now looking ahead with a long-term perspective, I am bullish on the future of NVIDIA. And I would not be surprised if this company doubles over the next 2 years, given NVIDIA's current growth trajectory and upcoming product cycles. And on that note, I'll share these 2 slides again from NVIDIA's updated investor presentation. This first slide shows some of the components of Blackwell. And the reason I share this is to remind you that Blackwell is not just a chip. It is an entire platform. It's a supercomputer, and this provides a massive revenue opportunity for NVIDIA. And this next slide is very encouraging because this is a product roadmap from NVIDIA. This year, we get the launch of Blackwell. Then in 2025, we get Ultra Blackwell. And Rubin is scheduled to arrive later on in 2026. So again, I think NVIDIA's brightest days are ahead. As long as things remain peaceful in the Pacific, and as long as none of the hyperscalers significantly reduce their capex spending on AI, then I think NVIDIA should be just fine for at least the next 1 to 2 years. At least that's how I view the situation. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.